Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode for the Singapore Grand Prix today. We currently are in the lead of the championship and have gained a few points in recent rounds, as has our teammate Romain GROSJEAN. He's up to 4th in the standings after he had a pretty rough start to the season, and now he is really bringing himself back into title contention. Still 85 points away, but still in the fight, I think, well and truly, with Bottas and RICCIARDO in 2nd and 3rd as we go very deep into that corner just before the grandstand on our outlap, and we just grazed the front left end plate there as we took avoiding action of that barrier, but thankfully it didn't really slow us down too much, that damage, and we're still able to set a competitive lap time in Q1, and that puts us 2nd in the session, with Romain GROSJEAN leading the way, and the Mercedes not far off Verstappen with some good pace in the Ferrari. He's really been on fire, but you can see Esteban OCON and Guan Yu Zhou knocked out in Q1, with the Alfa Romeo of Kevin Magnussen and the Williams of Lance Stroll doing very well up there in this session. P13 for the Williams, so we'll see if he can carry that form into this next round of qualifying. We get the DRS open as we complete our lap in Q2. No worries there, we go 4th fastest with Bottas leading the way from Leclerc in the other Ferrari, then Lewis Hamilton. So the Ferrari's in the fight here. Max Verstappen gets through on the medium compound tyres, and Lance Stroll qualifies in 11th position, so great work from him in the Williams, and indeed Kevin Magnussen as well, going 12th so in the Alpha. So that's two cars you wouldn't really expect to be knocking on the door of the top 10, but they are right there in the fight. Danny Kvyat in the Renault, good to see him through as well. A lot better than his teammate Esteban Ocon, who was knocked out in the first round of qualifying. We now move on to Q3, and now it is push time. We need to try and set the best lap we can here as we come around the final few corners. Miss the apex there, out wide over the curb, spinning into the wall, and that is the end of our first qualifying lap, and that cost us probably about a second or so, but thankfully we still have all 4 wheels on the highly technologically advanced wagon, and we just lost our front wing, and nothing more than that. So yeah, we can go again at the end of the session. Our front wing gets repaired, and we are now ready to go again. We need to improve on that lap though, because that is down in 10th position at the moment. So we will go again at the end of the session and see if we can improve on that initial time. So as we get out of the very tight and twisty section of the circuit, bit of wheel spin on the exit there as we open the DRS, and you can see we're not gaining time on our first flyer, and this is not good. We will gain some towards the end of the lap, so as we move on we are only going to gain in this final sector, and we will, I think, improve, but only by the smallest amount, and we're still down in 10th position and last in this session, so disaster really.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Bottas, Grosjean and Lewis Hamilton. Goodbye for now then, but we're really just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
And thankfully Romain GROSJEAN does his job in qualifying and gets on the front row, but yeah, for us that's not good enough. We need to improve in the race now.
Here we go then, it's Formula 1 in Marina Bay once again, and welcome to all of you at home who join us today for this fascinating race around the baking hot, horribly humid, but very beautiful streets of Singapore. We have a high risk of a safety car here today, as the abundance of tight corners mixed with these wet conditions could put a few cars off into the barriers. 23 turns then, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, make up the 3.1 mile lap of Marina Bay. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's talk about the scientist. That was a great podium in the last race, so can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs, so it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Gasly, Max Verstappen, and Sainz. The scientist, Stroll, Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, and Romain GROSJEAN, Perez, Albon, George Russell, and Ocon, Kvyat, Joe, Kevin Magnussen, and Lando Norris, Matsushita, GIOVINAZZI, Latifi, and Nick de Vries. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So the wet conditions here in Singapore, and apparently it is baking hot, so it's going to be a sauna out there as we run on the intermediate tyres for the start of this race. I would imagine wet tyres will be used later on, but a whole host of grid penalties, including our teammate Romain GROSJEAN penalised down to 10th position for some new power units components. Unfortunate for him. Magnussen as well, his great qualifying will go to waste, but anyway, we now go to the 5 red lights, and away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. And we're just trying to take it nice and easy off the start here. Immediately, it's just an opaque screen of water spray in front of us. We just have to be very cautious into the first corner, make sure we don't run into the back of everyone, and just try and get through here cleanly more than anything else. Our track position, it's important, but front wings are absolutely vital, so we don't want to risk that for some track position, and we do end up even losing the position to our teammate who started behind us. And that's unfortunate, but oh well, we're still in the race, still in the points, and that's all I really wanted from the start of this one. Lance Stroll behind us, he's in the points for Williams at the moment, so that would be amazing for the Williams team if he could bring those that point home for 10th position where he sits at the moment, potentially higher if there's any chaos further up the road, but for now we just need to try our best to get up to speed, because right now I am not in a good rhythm. Obviously right off the start of the race, it's the first time it's rained all weekend, and it is pouring, and these potentially are maybe only barely the ideal tyre. I can't imagine the conditions are too far away from full wets, so I imagine we'll be moving to those somewhat soon, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, for now, we just need to try and get into a rhythm, because you can see we're just losing so much time, and Lance Stroll is really putting the pressure on in that Williams. So as we continue on, we take a really wide line here, try and open up the hairpin, but that just leaves the door wide open for Lance Stroll, and we just couldn't get anywhere near something that remotely resembles an apex, and Lance Stroll just slides on through for free there, as we just about stay ahead of the Red Bull. I believe that is Albon, because we saw Ricciardo earlier in the race getting past us, so yeah, that is Alexander Albon in that Red Bull. But as we continue on then under the grandstand, really struggling for traction, for braking, for turning, just everything at the moment is just not working for us in these conditions. Another big old slide there, and that's going to allow Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, and Esteban Ocon to get ahead of us, as well as George Russell and Danny Kvyat as we run wide on the next corner. So Kvyat obviously was penalised as well, because he qualified way ahead of Esteban Ocon, and now runs behind his Renault teammates. So yeah, here was another one. There was a whole host of grid penalties. There was a lot, so yeah, don't be surprised to see everyone running out of order compared to qualifying in this race. But as we continue on then, we've now got Lando Norris behind us, beside us, and I think into the wall there for the young British driver as he tried to go for the gap on the right hand side. He just turned directly right into the wall. What are you doing there, man? Wheel off, and another hit into the barrier. His race was over at that point, but Lando Norris just throwing it away there. Just, I don't know what he was doing. There was never going to be a gap there on the inside, or you know, even if there was, he would be on the wrong side for the next corner. This is the onboard from Guan Yu Zhou, and he runs into the back of the Alfa Romeo there. I believe that is Kevin Magnussen in that car, and yeah, Zhou getting some front wing damage as well. But as we continue on, an excess of fuel at Jeffrey. Excess of fuel at the moment, not really going to worry about that too much in these conditions. We do okay, we do tend to use a bit of fuel in these conditions, spinning the wheels up and such, but yeah, that's hopefully won't become an issue later on. So yeah, as we continue on through this race, we just need to put in the laps. We are getting a rhythm slowly, so we just need to keep on pushing on and hope that we can improve. We go very deep though into the sharp corner at the end of the straight, and we give away a free position to Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. So that is the lack of pace that we've had in this race. We're getting caught by Alfa Romeos and Williams and all sorts that we would not normally be fighting with, and now we've got Nicholas Latifi behind us, and it can't be too long until he's trying to make an overtake. As we head through the section, a big lose at the back end as we head into this hairpin here. Latifi down the inside and gets through. Bit of contact made, but that is fair enough. He was down the inside, and we turned in on him a little bit there. So yeah, that's unfortunate. As we continue on, a graze with the wall there, and the end of the straight, and the back straight there, and that's damaged our front wing. So now we have to box this lap, or we will be understeering like a boat. A boat might be more useful in these conditions, honestly, than what this car is. It just has no grip, it feels like. So yeah, it just is not working for us today. So another hit with the wall there, and even more front wing damage. So yeah, we're definitely going to need to box this lap, drifting into the wall again. And now I don't think we have much front wing left at this point, so we head into the pits to get a new schnozzle on the car, and that will change up the strategy in this one. We're probably going to have to move on to a two-stop strategy in this race if we're going to make it to the end. I don't think another set of intermediates from here. We're only a quarter of the way through the race, so or not even that. So yeah, it's going to be tough to get to the end from here on these tyres, but we will do our best and see what we can do as we get that new front wing. And off we go again, out of the pit lane and into our next stint of this race. We're a long way behind the next car of Nobuharu Matsushita in the Racing Point. He had some damage earlier on in the race too, got caught up in a bit of a kerfuffle at some point, and he, along with Guan Yu Zhou, has had to stop for a new front wing. So really unfortunate for the Racing Point team. It has not gone their way. But we move on and we do catch up to Matsushita. We're going to go for a big move down the inside into the end of the long straight, and we get the move done there. Next up is Guan Yu Zhou, and we do have pace against these guys, and we do indeed have the fastest lap as well. So in all that time it took to catch up to the two Racing Points, we have taken the fastest lap of this race as we slide down the inside of Guan Yu Zhou, squeeze through on the inside and make the move on the Chinese driver. The next one is Kevin Magnussen in the Alfa Romeo, up the inside in exactly the same way, a bit more aggressive and later on the brakes for that one, but we still get the move done on K-Mag, and we continue to catch up to more and more cars in this race. Next up is Daniel Kvyat, as we are getting absolutely no visibility here along the straight, very difficult to see. We go up the inside of the Russian into and almost into the back of the car ahead. That is Nick de Vries in the Haas, and we're going to slide up the inside of Nick de Vries at the last possible moment there. That was a nice overtake on Nick de Vries there, and that was last minute avoiding action. I saw the closing speed there was pretty extreme. We were always going to make the corner with the extra downforce our car has and the lighter chassis compared to the Haas, but wow, that was last minute, and a little bit of contact made there with de Vries as he wasn't quite expecting that move coming. We were just charging down the inside like a freight train at that point, but we got through and there was no damage to his car. We continue on, a few cars enter the pit lane.
We think you're all right for now, but it might not be long before we switch to the full wets.
And it's almost time for the full wet tyres, so that could shake things up as well. And I'm potentially thinking about not stopping for the full wet, because I've never really liked them too much, and if we can get some decent track position, the intermediate tyres will still work in the full wet conditions. They won't be as fast, but they'll still be okay. We'll be driving slower, so it won't wear the tyres as much. If we can get to the end, we potentially could gain a few places here, quite a few. We're up into 13th at the moment, and that's only going to get better and better as people stop for the full wet tyres. We're up into the top 10 now, with everyone else finally making that move.
Set of full wets on. We've seen a few people change over.
And yeah, a few people, or I think basically everyone changing over to the full wets now. This could be how we get points in this race, because we don't have the pace today, but we could do it on strategy as we get overtaken by Lance Stroll. That's the third time in that corner we've been overtaken by a Williams. It really is not a strong part of the track for us, as we now get the Misty Shield up once again. And here's the replay of Lance Stroll getting down the inside pretty easily, and you can see how much water is just pouring off the rear tyres of that Williams. So yeah, that is exactly why the full wet tyres are required at this point, but we're still not stopping for them as we're battling away with Alexander Albon. We managed to stay ahead of the Red Bull driver, but now we have a safety car, and I honestly couldn't figure out why. You can see here we go past the pit lane because I wasn't planning on stopping. We have good track position at the moment, so we continue on, and we didn't catch the safety car on that lap, so we do go into the pits just about as we go bouncing over every single curb there. But we will stop and put the full wet tyres on. As I decided it's probably the best decision with a full field of cars behind us. It would be the safer bet to go onto the full wets. The prediction said we come out in P12. It's actually going to be P13 or 14 in reality, so that wasn't quite accurate, but we may have lost some time on that pit entry as well, so that could also be why. It was only very, very close to the Red Bull car of Albon there, and yeah, that is that one. But now we get going once again. There's already a caution out. We go very deep into the first corner. There's some kind of kerfuffle going on in turn 3. There's a huge pile up of cars there. Valtteri Bottas is on the right hand side heading towards the wall, and we do manage to make a lot of positions. We get a legal overtake on Carlos Sainz. It's all kicking off here, and we have suddenly found ourselves in the top 5 positions in this race. How did that happen? Here is what's going on at turn 3. It's just a car park. There's cars going everywhere and stopping on the track, running into each other. There's a few penalties for all that as well. I think Latifi and GIOVINAZZI were penalised for infringements and all that. And now Ricciardo on the back of us. Into the wall goes Daniel Ricciardo, one of the title contenders. It gets another hit from behind for good measure, and Daniel Ricciardo is out of the Singapore Grand Prix. What on earth happens here? Round the flat out right-hander in the dirty air, loses the back end, and Daniel Ricciardo is out of the Singapore Grand Prix. That was one of the Racing Point cars into the back of him, and more contact further back. This is the onboard from Guan Yu Zhou, and whack straight into the back of Ricciardo. No visibility there through the spray and the smoke. He had no chance. This is the onboard with our teammate Romain GROSJEAN. He gets through the chaos. Pierre GASLY in the AlphaTauri. He was the one that ran into the back of Guan Yu Zhou. Alexander Albon parks it up as well. Here comes George Russell in the Haas. He gets through, so that's great. That's going to be a good result for him in the Haas car if he continues on. Lance Stroll follows him through as well. So the Haas and the Williams still on for good points. Esteban Ocon was also involved in this one. Whack into the back of Pierre Gasly, and now reversing to try and get going once again. Nicholas Latifi decides to check on the rest of the drivers, and Pierre Gasly reverses into his front wing. Antonio Giovinazzi is here as well, and he manages to navigate his way past, trying to avoid all the debris. Sergio PEREZ, as Giovinazzi goes left, PEREZ goes right and finds a wall of cars and runs into the back of Esteban Ocon. Nobuharu Matsushita has found himself a similar problem and goes into Sergio PEREZ, and here is the race director after all of that chaos. Penalties going everywhere. Sergio PEREZ and Esteban Ocon colliding for the second time in this race, I will mention as well. I don't know if it was the cause of that first safety car, but it was around the time of it that PEREZ and Ocon had a collision with each other, and they both have a pair of penalties. So that is no good for those two. They've got a bit of history here at this track, and that's continuing here today. But that has really turned this race on its head.
Maintain your pace until the green flag. VSC ending, wait for green.
And now with the VSC over, we can push on once again and try and make another position on Carlos Sainz at the end of this race, if we can. If not, we'll just have to settle for 5th position, or potentially allow Grosjean to fight for that one. So we'll see. But yeah, we don't have long left in this race, and we continue on through lap 57. You can see the race has actually been called early. The 2-hour time limit has been reached, and here is your race winner around the final corner. Lewis Hamilton wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Great work from him. It's been a long time for Lewis Hamilton. He has not had a successful season. This one will mean a lot to him as we come around the final few corners. We did let Romain Grosjean past us. Unfortunately, he put a lot of pressure on Carlos Sainz, but not able to make the overtake on the McLaren. He finishes in 5th position. We'll come around the final corner. It's been a chaotic race, and somehow we bring home P6.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
That is a score. We did not deserve that on pace. That was absolute carnage at the end there. And this is the point where the gameplay recorder decided to stop gameplay recording. So yeah, then we are just left with this clip at the end. I did manage to get the HQ stuff. I just don't have the highlights reel of the podium celebrations and such. So I don't have the championship standings. This time we did lose a few points to Grosjean, but with Bottas and Ricciardo out of the race, and we didn't score a huge amount of points. We were P6, so it's still a handful, but yeah, we lost 2 points to Grosjean, so he would be 83 points behind, and Bottas and Ricciardo both would have lost whatever P6 is worth in points to us. So yeah, P6. I always have to work this out, work backwards. 10th is 1 point, 9th is 2 points, 8th is 4 points, 7th is 6 points, 6th is 8 points. Yeah, so yeah, Bottas and Ricciardo lost 8 points for us. I got there eventually, but now for R&D, we're not going to do what Carl is recommending. We don't need to do ultimate durability upgrades 2/3 of the way through a season. That just doesn't make sense. So we're not going to do that. Instead, as we scroll through the departments, we still lead the way all around the clock. But we're going to go for the chassis and finally get to that major brake upgrade that I've been targeting. Our chassis is already very, very good, but I want that brake upgrade, and that will help us hugely when it comes in a few weeks' time. So yeah, that is what we are targeting for the time being. That was just after practice. Now we are back to present day, but we can't really do anything there at the moment. So yeah, other than that then, there is not a lot left to cover, I don't think, as we have a look through our facilities. We did do an upgrade to one of the facilities earlier on as I was talking over it, but yeah, honestly, those sorts of things, they're probably not going to make a huge difference at this point, the facility upgrades, because we're so close to the end of the season. You know, we might get like one extra upgrade on the car by the end of the season, if we're lucky. But yeah, we also finally going to purchase these. They've been sitting here for a while. These driver perks, we can't quite afford all of them, as we bought that facility upgrade. But anyway, other than that though, there is not a lot left to cover. So I would say thank you so much for watching. The Russian Grand Prix is up next. That's always a pretty exciting one in the game. So I will see you then, and we'll look forward to a fun race there. Goodbye.